This tutorial will help you in completing the IEP assignment. As you see here, we have the forms for the IEP assignment, and I will walk you through each part of the form. The first page is identifying information, so you will complete the name first and last. Again, use a pseudonym so that we protect students' identity. Current address, phone, date of birth, age. You don't need to worry about the student ID number, their present grade level, and resident home district. We will assume that the student is receiving services in their home district, so you don't need to fill out the next part. The next part is the primary language or communication mode, and that would be for this particular student. What form do they mainly use? Educational decision maker, most oftentimes it is the parent, but sometimes we do have other options as well. Case manager, that's where you'll put your name and phone number. Again, protect your identity. The IEP type, there are two different types. An initial only happens once. It is the very first IEP that a student has. Most IEPs will be annuals, meaning that this is the yearly review. Even if it hasn't been a full year, it's the yearly review of that IEP. You will then put the date of the previous IEP that you are reviewing. If it is an initial IEP, there will be no previous date, but in all other cases, there will be. The next piece is the most recent evaluation or reevaluation. So you will put the date of when they were last evaluated or considered for reevaluation. The projected date would be 3 years from that date of the last one. The date of the IEP meeting is the date you're holding it. The initiation date can be up to 10 days after the meeting. Parents or guardians have the right to a grace period in which they can consider the components of the IEP and if they accept them or they reject them. The projected date of the annual IEP review would be 1 year from the IEP date meeting that you're currently holding. And then parents and guardians must be provided a copy of the IEP within 5 days of the meeting. And so that's what that date would be. Below that, you will list all of the people who will be in attendance, making sure you have all the required folks listed. And if they are not going to be there, you can see they did not participate or they provided by writing if they were not present. The present level is the key to the IEP. This is kind of the heart of the IEP. The first bullet talks about how the disability affects their involvement in general education. This needs to include what the diagnosis of the student is. So make sure you're including that in your statement here. It would also talk about why does this child require special education? What skills deficits or other things impact them not being able just to have general education, that they require more specific services. The next bullet is the strengths of the student. This would be strengths reported by the families as well as by the staff and what they see in the school setting. The next piece is concerns of parents or guardians, and I would also include concerns of staff here. This really is where much of your goal focus, as well as thinking about adaptations and modifications that are needed, would come from this concerns area. So you want to make sure and make it pretty specific. Next section is changes in current functioning since the last IEP. Oftentimes here, this is where the current goals are reported out on and the progress that they've made in those goals. The summary of the most recent evaluation or reevaluation results. This gets to the pieces that led to the diagnosis of the student. So it's important to include a quick summary of those results. Even if they've been summarized in previous IEPs and that has not changed, it would still be reported here. A summary of the child's results on formal and informal age-appropriate transition assessments. Really, this could be any assessment. It could be district assessments. Oftentimes, if a student took a district assessment, those results might be reported here. For students participating in the alternative assessments, you will put that the objectives will be described on the goal page because you would write those on the goal page. Typically, they're not done in the present level. The next piece is special considerations. And in this area, what you're going to check, you're going to basically check the boxes. If they're blind or visually impaired, you would check yes. We will not complete the extra forms for this piece, but I will look at the check boxes. So you will go through and answer these series of questions. If you check, does the student exhibit behaviors that impede their learning or that of others, make sure that you have behavior strategies addressed in the IEP, and that should be also including a behavior plan that would be written as part of the IEP. If they have communication needs, make sure that that is documented in the present level, as well as possibly having a goal in that area. Same with assistive technology. If they require assistive technology, you would document that in present level as well. ESY, extended school year, that kind of depends on you. I'm not going to, again, have you fill out that extra form. Transfer of rights, if they are of age, you could go ahead and fill that box out. And then state assessments, if they will be completing those. However, you won't fill out Form D. And then district-wide assessments, but you will not be filling out Form E. And then the post-secondary, but you will not be filling out Form C. You actually have a whole class on transition, so I don't address that in this course. The next piece is the goals. You want to make sure that your goals are following the 4-part format. I would reference the article that you read in Module 6 to help you write appropriate IEP goals. One thing to remember is if you have indicated that this student is assessed on the alternative map, you will need benchmarks or objectives, and those should be written along with that goal. Make sure you are checking how the progress towards the goal will be monitored. The next page is reporting progress. Parents and guardians should receive reports of progress at least as often as general ed students. So if your students receive progress reports, however often they receive those progress reports in the gen ed, that's how often this student should have reports on their goals. If they've just received quarterly report cards or trimester report cards, then it would be one of those options. The service summary page is really important. So you will list over here the services that they receive based on their diagnosis. Down here could be related services, which could be language, speech, OT, PT, that sort of thing. You will list the amount of services or the time that they receive, how much time they receive for that service, and the frequency, if it's weekly, monthly, daily, what setting that will be in. So in some cases, we have students receiving special education, possibly in a co-teaching situation where they're receiving it in the regular education classroom. But then they're also receiving special education services maybe later in the day in the special education classroom. Those two pieces should be listed separately so that we know specifically how much special education services they are receiving in general education and how much special ed services they are receiving in the special education environment. You will not select home. That would be if a student was on homebound. You will also have the beginning and end date of those services. It's important to have both. Typically, those dates are the beginning of the IEP, when the IEP is initiated, and then when the IEP is expired. In some rare cases, you may have the end date be the end of the school year. For example, if a student is transitioning from elementary school to middle school and the times change based on scheduling, then you may have the end date be the end of the school year, and then the beginning date for the next service, which would be listed on a different line, would be the beginning of the following school year. Supplementary aids and services, the big piece that often goes here is if the student is accessing a paraprofessional in the classroom. So that would be listed there. Modifications, just check that they will be completed on Form F as well as support. So you will be completing Form F in this assignment. Transportation as a related service, if they are needing transportation, you would check the appropriate boxes for that. Regular participation in education, you will not do the top part as that is for preschool. You will come down here to the K-12. You will check if the student is not participating 100% of the time in the gen ed environment, which most of our children are not. You would check no, list their name, the percentage of time that they will participate in gen ed, and the reason why it's not appropriate for them to be in gen ed full time. Typically, it's because of individual programming, behavior programming, things along that line. Also, will they participate in physical education and which type? Some of our students do access adaptive PE. If it's high school, it could be that they've already earned their credit for that, so they would not participate there. You don't need to worry about the non-academic pieces. Placement considerations and decisions. You will do the K2 setting. You need to consider more than one placement. So you will have at least 2 boxes checked over here, and then the appropriate placement that was selected based on their service minutes. Also, you will determine whether the school that they will be attending is the closest to their home. And if not, why that may be. Typically, it's an IEP team decision due to programming. The last piece you will fill out is the adaptations and modifications form. Be sure and pay attention to the difference between accommodations and modifications. You did learn that in previous modules. You will check the location of the appropriate modification or adaptation, as well as the frequency and the beginning and end date. Again, typically those beginning and end dates do align with the dates of the IEP cycle. So when the IEP begins and when it ends. Make sure that any adaptations and modifications that you check were considered in the present level so that they match back to those concerns. We will be looking for that. If there are supports for school personnel required, for example, maybe specialized training in ABA, in NCI, that sort of thing, that would be listed here. And that is the end of what you need to complete. Also, I just want to let you know, oftentimes as you're completing these forms, the format kind of messes up on them. Don't worry about taking time and going back and trying to correct that format. I'm fine with it not looking exactly right. It's just kind of the nature of technology and the way these forms were constructed. So don't spend a lot of time with that. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me through email, text, phone call, or post a question on the discussion board as I or some of your classmates may respond to you. Thank you so much.